To you I give the grain, the light, and the sky. To you, a sacred heritage. To you, the land and sea.
Ambassador?
So spoke Shaquan at the dawn of all mornings.
Ambassador?
Enter!
You guys, we're back.
We're back.
Did you miss us? I haven't heard my own voice in so long.
I feel like in an anime when the hero gets beat up and everybody thinks they're dead and then they come crawling back out of the hole.
I mean, we've taken breaks before, but I think this is one of the longest. Yeah. I think the previous record was held by when we split the original pod. Mm-hmm. So when Strange and Beautiful Book Club was originally released, we released everything all under one roof. And
coming 1 kilo.
Yeah, everything.
All the movies, all the books.
And that got a little confusing. So we took a break to split them all into different streams. And that's how they have been in perpetuity. And I think it works out really well. However, we had to take a break to do it. And I think it was like a month. And this was like a month and a half. And I'm going to tell you why, gentle listeners. And it's because there was apparently some kind of an ice storm. I don't even know. We're like, oh, okay, it's fine. It's ice. And then they were like, once in a generation ice storm. And I was like, oh, shit. All right, fine. So we were delayed. We were delayed by circumstance,
nature,
and weather. And then we got up here and, hey, we live right on a highway. We knew that. Like intellectually, I knew we were going to be right on a highway. And I was like, well, nobody wants to listen to highway noise.
There's a lot of road noise.
I mean, highway is a relative term because we're in the middle of nowhere. There's like trucks that go by every 15 minutes or so, but it's enough. And then when summer comes and the Great Frozen North thaws and people come up here to look at it, there will be a lot more traffic. So we had to soundproof a room, which we have done more or less. And we now have a really large abundance of hotel sheets because we bought a hotel and it is full of shit. One of the shit it's full of
hotel materials.
Is hotel materials. So we are in a room of white sheets. And let me tell you, it's actually a little rage-inducing being in this room. But we're going to make it through it because today we're going to record this podcast for everybody because we're going to have a separate YouTube channel for our motel and for fixing it up where I periodically release videos that I have attempted to compile into a video of us doing shit. And that's going to be called Into the West. And I put a little preview up and I put a link underneath that preview to the other YouTube channel. So you can follow us over there if you want more Into the West content. But the only comment on it is like, when is We Are All Kosh coming back?
Yeah, which is hilarious. I'm so glad we produced something people are waiting for.
I'm glad we got a comment that was like, but guys, where's the content I actually want? So here we are producing it. So hi, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Matt.
And this is
We Are All Kosh,
a fan cast, a Babylon 5 fan cast. I meant to go on and make a list of synonyms, so I have them. It's coming. So today we are recording Season 1, Episode 12, By Any Means Necessary, which was originally released on May 11th, 1994. So we've taken enough of a break. We've almost caught up. And let me tell you what my soul needed after a week and a half or a month and a half break from podcasting. It was the labor rights episode. That's what I needed.
Yeah.
This was directed by Jim Johnston and written by Kathryn M. Drennan. So again, this is not J. Michael Straczynski's fault. It does star a lady named Kate Boyer as Connolly, Neoma Connolly, the labor representative.
Although one time they said Naomi.
No, oh, they did. They
Yeah.
Well, Naomi's kind of, I mean, I get it. She's in Minority Report as the mother. Just mother. She's in a couple of things. The Lost World Jurassic Park as Benjamin's mom. So she's in like stuff. You know, like I was in this as the mother or the bystander. Oh, she's in a bunch of stuff. She was in Sliders. Star Trek The Next Generation. I thought she looked familiar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's one of those faces.
Yeah, she looked like that girl. And she is still alive.
Woohoo!
Senator Hidoshi is in this. He is also still alive. Holy shit, he's 90 now.
Wow.
I'm not going to attempt to pronounce his name. I am going to here. I said I wasn't going to, and then I did anyway.
Oh, I was going to take a shot at pronouncing it.
Oh, okay, here.
Is that Aki? Or
Aki is his nickname, but it's
okay.
Asing Along.
Oh, and he's born in Spain.
Yeah.
Oh, no, Port of Spain in Trinidad and Tobago. I guess Asing Aleong.
Yeah, let's go with that. He was born in 1934 and is still alive. Wow. The other guy doesn't have...
That means he was 60 when this was recorded?
Wow. Apparently the writer Kathryn M. Drennan was the wife of J. Michael Straczynski at the time.
At the time.
At the time. And she has previously written some other scripts for mostly animated television shows. Oh, and she later wrote one of the novels, To Dream in the City of Sorrows, which follows Jeffrey Sinclair's story after.
Beep.
God damn it! And you know what? I'm gonna have to get back to it. I'm gonna have to get back in the vibe of saying nothing that wants to come out of my mouth. Apparently, the Matawan massacre that they refer to later is a 1920s industrial confrontation between coal mine workers and the mine company, where they brought in a private detective to settle the dispute. And it resulted in a shootout and several people died. The Rush Act was named by Drennan after the conservative talk show host, Rush Limbaugh. Oh, that really. Yep.
Who no one talks about now anymore. Now that he's gone.
Right. Well, it's kind of what hate gets you, right? Mm-hmm. Either the worst kind of legacy or no legacy at all.
Yeah, or Game of Thrones.
Yeah, which, well, I guess now that they have all the spinoffs.
That wasn't really a hate thing, but that was...
I mean, it just didn't stick the landing.
And the concept of like an anti-legacy.
We have this conversation on the Discord very frequently, which is the idea of having a start to finish good television program is a solved problem. Mm-hmm. Look at Babylon 5. You just have at least a basic plot outline of knowing where you're starting and knowing where you're going.
And finding a path between
those. And then
those.
Just following the path in between those two things. So you always know how your television show is going to end. The problem with that, of course, is that you have a finite amount of product that you can produce. But I feel like the way that we structure television now is uniquely suited to continue a legacy like Babylon 5, where Babylon 5 was trying to have a really coherent storyline that went from episode to episode, but was really restricted by the policy of having 20 plus episodes per season at the time. Imagine if Babylon 5 were made now, it could have 10 episodes per season, and you needed none of the filler episodes.
Right.
In a way, I think it would lose something.
Right, because a lot of the filler is the side characters.
Well, a lot of the filler is like you've put the pot on to boil, and it's on the heat, but it hasn't boiled yet. But we get these tiny, like we're going to have a couple moments in this episode, which feels like it doesn't relate to any of the larger story, but it does. And the brilliance of Babylon 5 is that they managed to continuously remind us of this building conflict, even in filler episodes, even if it's not obvious until you go back on a rewatch.
Right. There's a lot of planting seeds fertilizing the seeds.
Yeah, waiting. And
watering the plants.
Oh, you get time
and then you get to harvest it.
You fall in love with these characters. It's hard to make someone fall in love with a character in 10 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
In 20 episodes, by the time shit happens to people, you're mad, bro, because you've been with them for the last 18 hours of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked to some of our friends who are much bigger in watching newer television shows than we are, and they struggle with watching Babylon 5. They struggle with watching Forever Night or some of the other television shows that we like because they're not bingeable. You can't sit down. I mean, you can get 3 or 4 episodes of Babylon 5 and then you're like, oh, I kind of need a break because they were not designed to be bingeable. And that's fine.
Yeah, they were designed to satisfy you for the whole week, or at least, 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
And then you have a couple days of getting really hungry for it.
Yeah. Well, you get a complete storyline, a little bit of a hook to get you back next week, but not so much that you're like, if I miss next week's episode, I might as well just quit because I won't know what's happening.
Right.
So I don't know where we started with that, but that's where we ended. I'm going to read you the IMDb description of John Snyder because...
and this is Oren Zento?
This is Oren Zento. He's gone on to be like an anime voice. Like that's all his description is. And I would argue he is the least adept actor in this entire episode. He's acting for the people in the back the entire
how about this?
time.
My take on the Oren Zento character.
Okay.
As like the best labor negotiator for the Earth government.
Yeah.
Right? This is the guy they send around. He's a charismatic white guy.
Yeah.
Who typically goes into situations.
A charismatic white guy with a British accent. Unlike some Robin Hoods, I have a real British accent.
And he's used to going into rooms with minorities, flexing his white privilege around to force everybody in line. And everybody goes along with it because they have all this like cultural indoctrination to go along with the white guy.
Yeah.
And so he has this history of like peaceably resolving all these labor disputes, but he's not actually doing anything well. It's just the seeming of being a good negotiator.
Yeah, it's the mediocre white dude.
And so he finally gets up against Sinclair, who all of his like special magic tricks don't work anymore.
Yeah. Well, you thought the Sinclair smash was just a punch. It's not. It's also his huge intellect.
His huge compassion.
This guy also played Soul Hunter, one of the Soul Hunters, Soul Hunter 2, apparently, in the Soul Hunter episode. Maybe that's why. His voice is triggering my latent disgust for that episode. But here you go. Anyone lucky enough to have seen his work never forgets the incredible richness that John Snyder brings to film. With his uncanny Christopher Lee demeanor, John Strummer looks, and James Mason-esque gaze, it is perhaps his haunting and indelible voice that makes his career so legendarily paved. He's gone on to do a lot of stuff. He's had a very successful voice career, which is really good because I'm not certain he would have had a very successful TV career. He's acting for the people in the back. And if you listen to anything else that we've done, I don't mind that generally, but they send this guy to be the labor negotiator. They might as well have just handed him a gun, have him walk in, shoot all the leaders, and be like, you work for me now, bitch, because that's effectively how good he is at communicating.
Right, which is bad.
That's not a good thing, okay? So anyway, on to the episode. Season 1, Episode 12, By Any Means Necessary. I love how unbuttoned Ivanova is in this whole series, this whole episode. Because she doesn't have her braid.
She's so overwhelmed, yeah.
She's so overwhelmed. But she took time to curl her hair, and she's got it in this nice little pony.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cute look for her.
She was feeling real good and relaxed, and then shit started falling apart.
We hadn't had a major crisis, in a while. What was the episode before this one? Yeah, I mean, the last major thing that happened is Garibaldi got chased like a fugitive through his own station. Nearly murdered. Oh, right. Wait, that wasn't a great thing. But Ivanova hasn't gotten a lot of character development. And we will. But mostly she's just been the severe Russian woman that works in the CNC and possibly also sleeps there. Since she has quarters, but we've only seen them like once.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm waiting for her character development. It's coming. She doesn't get it this episode, but we do open on her, and she is hailing a whole bunch of ships, and she's like, okay, you're number 4 in line, you're number 3 in line, you're number 2 in line.
It's like an Office Space. Accounts payable, Nina speaking. Yeah. Hold, please.
Yeah. Corporate accounts payable, Nina speaking. Just a moment. Corporate accounts payable. Yeah, but it's Ivanova. And she is, basically telling everybody, hold the phone. We've got a lot of shit going on in the cargo area right now. We'll get to you eventually. Including Talqueith, a Narn ship. And once she tells them to hold, they're like, ho, 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 hold on. I don't have to hold.
We have
I'm more
priority
important.
cargo.
I have extremely perishable cargo for Ambassador Jakar. And she's like, oh, Jakar? Yeah, I don't want to piss him off because you know how the Narn are, which is what she says later.
He's going to put up a stink.
So she calls down to the docker who is in charge of what is a very busy looking set.
Hey, finally, we get a room full of boxes that's also even more full of people.
Okay, and I'm going to clarify this particular room full of boxes, and we are going to heretofore refer to this as the corridor of conflict because
we use it a lot.
This is the hallway set that has the gangway across the top, the catwalk across the top. We have used this extensively so far. This is the place where Jakar gave his speech during the episode with the Home Guard. This is where Garibaldi got beat up. This is where Sinclair had his LSD trip experience with the 2 people that were trying to get him to find out what was in the hole in his mind. And we are going to use this set almost exclusively through this whole episode. And we will be referring to it from here on out because it is what it is. It is the corridor of conflict. And this is a brilliant set because it's a box with a catwalk. And you can do a lot with the catwalk. People can stand up there and give speeches. People can walk by on it and look busy.
You have multiple catwalks, so you can give this whole feeling of people lining up and the whole thing being surrounded.
Yeah, and you can get lots of cool camera angles in here. You can put a matte painting of the ship disappearing up into a curve, and suddenly this is a corridor in the station. Or you can put a stack of boxes back there, and suddenly this is a like warehouse / dock. This is why
Should
Babylon.
I let the cat in?
I mean, you can. It's going to turn around and want back out again. Well, we now have a third individual in the pod lab, and that is Pippin. Pippin, you can come lay on my lap. Come on. Come on. Anyway, this is why Babylon 5 made it work, because Babylon 5 had like $40 per episode to try to...
They have $40 to run this show efficiently.
Yeah, to outfit people. Yeah, efficiently. Oh, we're going to come to that. To outfit people, to create sets, to, so reusing sets was key. And this is a set we have used a lot already, and we will use a lot more. I love it. This is the kind of ingenuity that you lose when you throw a bunch of money and there's nothing wrong with having enough money to produce a television show. Like, I'm not saying that, but there is a certain amount of magic to, we are all in this together. We're producing this television show. It relies on me being able to figure out how to do this with some gum and a toothpick and the same set we've used for the last 12 episodes. And I think that's kind of cool. End of line. But she calls down, and I love that the guy that she talks to has a beanie on, And I want to know, did they import the beanies?
He's working on the dock in New York.
Did they import these beanies specifically? I don't know what you else would call them. Stocking cap, toboggan, the type of hat that he's wearing, the knit cap that he's wearing. It's traditionally associated with people that work outside. He is not outside.
He's not on a ship. He's not on a dock.
Maybe it's cold in the dock on Babylon 5. I don't. A couple of them are wearing them.
Since you're right next to space.
My favorite part is the artistically pulled up top, the little peak that he has right behind his headset.
Mm.
And he's like, I don't know, shit's fucked up down here, but I guess maybe I can make space for the Narn. Yeah, go ahead and put him in Docking Bay 8. So she calls the Narn guy, and she's like, okay, you can go to Docking Bay 8 via Beacon Alpha 6. Which the subtitles on our DVD didn't feel compelled to put down at all. They were like, yeah, come in the dock. That's basically that's all it said. I'm not over how bad those subtitles are. And this isn't in my notes where I said, did he import the beanie? Did they hand them out? Congratulations, you are a dock worker. Here is your knit cap. But this guy's name is Del Vientos. And he's going to be a recurring character. And he goes, you really busted my cojones today, CNC.
Del Vientos, make it quick.
This is CNC. Can you get that Narn transport in here any quicker?
Where the hell am I going to get the crew? We're already up to our butts out here.
I understand, but you know how the Narns can be.
Yeah, I know. You're really busting my cojones today, CNC. Slide her into Bay 8, then we'll see what we can do.
Thanks.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. At this point, we haven't really discussed whether or not Earth has a unified language or not. Although we have different accents. Yeah. We'll come back to it.
We really lean into the Russian angle, the Russian stereotype.
Yeah, except Ivanova, who should be Ivanova, but it's...
No, I mean, like, personality-wise.
Oh, yeah.
So there's still the geographic, like, regions.
Yeah, but do we...
Stuff, but...
Do we have, like, a...
Does everybody speak English?
Yeah. I don't know. We'll find out, I guess, as time goes on. But there's either equipment failure or human failure because... As he is coming in, another ship is coming up. And even though he's not supposed to, the Narn guy turns his
Ivanova tells
engines
him,
on.
Don't fire your engines.
Yeah.
Like, hold course. It's going to be okay. It's going to be a tight squeeze. Yes, there's two ships in this corridor at the same time.
We're going to figure this shit out. It's a big corridor, okay?
There's room for both of you. Don't panic.
Yeah, but he panics. And I like how it like hits the top and jiggles for a minute and then explodes.
Yeah.
It doesn't just, yeah, but there's pew pew, and then debris flies into Bay 6 and oh no, it's exploding and two people get trapped in there. Then I have to wonder, why do they not have some sort of control computer that takes over the ships as soon as they're inside Babylon 5?
I thought the very same thing.
Because you are literally... you are relying on that pilot.
Well, I had justifications for not.
Okay.
The base technology for all the different races, for all their different spaceships, could be completely different.
Okay.
And so to have like a module on your ship that can interface with like Babylon 5.
Yeah.
It would either have to be specific to Babylon 5, specific to human spaceships, or the whole, like, I don't know, galaxy would have to agree upon a standard way for space stations to interact with ships.
Okay.
And that's not going to happen.
Otherwise, you're giving the human military the power to take over.
It's a huge security vulnerability.
Okay. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Okay.
And
all
so
right, your justification is received.
I could say human ships, like Earth ships coming to Babylon 5, there's an autopilot with the station controlling them.
Yeah.
But the Narn?
Yeah, no.
No fucking way.
Okay. All right. I got it. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's why you just have to give them clear...
Precise. That's why they have a beacon to follow.
Yeah.
And she gives him another beacon to follow, but then he fucks it up.
He panics.
Yeah, he panics. Yeah. So we go to the intro. We come back. And now we have to go into that dock and get the 2 people in there who are trapped in there. So these people in fireproof suits show up.
And they really have trouble seeing.
Well, hang on. Del Vientos takes them aside and he's like, look, there's a chance of spontaneous combustion. So we're just going to like open the door and then we're going to send you guys in there and then we're shut the door. Okay. We don't want to add in any more oxygen to the atmosphere than we have to. And they literally go, all right. Together.
I was thinking it's kind of like the bomb squad.
Well,
you have to be a certain kind of crazy to be the kind of person who will run in.
They sound so happy to have been given a part. It feels like it was bring your spouse to work day, and they were like, "Hey, do you just want to put a hood on and run in there? And like you're going to be on screen for like 2 seconds. Your only line is to just go, all right. You think you can do that?" And they're like, all right. And so they go, all right. And as soon as they walk through the door, the one guy has to like keep pulling his hood down. He has to keep running his hand over the front of his hood to keep it down. It's pretty cute.
Pippin is very happy now.
Yeah. So they open the doors and this like burst of flames comes out, which kudos to that prop designer or to the like set guy who stood there.
Special effects guy.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And they go, we're going. And the other one goes, I'm right with you. They run through the door. They find the people remarkably quickly, like they're just inside the door, luckily, because otherwise we would have had to build a much larger set. So they're just like, oh, look, they're lying inside the door. And one is alive, but the other guy is deceased. And the deceased guy is Alberto Del Vientos.
Oh, no.
The beanie guy's brother. It's kind of sad. This is a sad episode. For a variety of reasons, which we will cover as we go on, which is like, this is the most American of all labor episodes that they could possibly come up with. There are countries where people are like, what do you mean they're not allowed to quit? I don't understand what you're talking about. What do you mean they're not allowed to strike?
I'm imagining, what would it be like? What would this episode be like if you took a French screenwriter and said, okay, here's the situation. Write the episode.
Right. They'd be like, and then they went on strike. And then they got what they wanted.
We're all just pooping in buckets and throwing the buckets at Sinclair.
Well, that's what sabotage comes from. Yeah. It's from the French word sabot for these little wooden shoes that they would wear. And one of the things that they would do when they were fucking fed up was throw them in machinery and break the machinery. And that's where we get the word sabotage is from the French sabot. So
the French don't put up with this shit.
I know. They'd be like, we all went on strike and no one would take over our jobs and we got what we wanted, the end. And then we all smoked a cigarette and went back to work.
I've seen some memes of people with like French spouses.
Yeah.
And their spouse is like, why is there no rioting in the streets? Why are they not burning anything down?
Oh, wait, it's coming. It's fine. So this is an episode where I'm not going to separate the B plot and the main plot because the B plot is kind of crucial to the Sinclair overwhelm that is happening in this episode, because we have the whole plot with the workers, which is going to become very politically charged very quickly. And then we have G'Kar and Londo fucking with each other, which is honestly the best reason to watch Babylon 5.
Yep.
Because this is the first time we have seen G'Kar as a religious person, like someone who is spiritual. This is his first episode where we're like, oh, there is more to G'Kar than just tee-hee, I'm the villain, hee-hee, ha-ha. This is also the first time that Londo is the aggressor in their relationship. Pause to take a photo of the very cute cat, who, after meowing and throwing himself against the door, has won his way into my lap. I'll put that on Instagram. You want to see it? You gotta go find us on Instagram at Strange and Beautiful Network. But this is the first time that Londo is the aggressor. This is the first time Londo is fucking with G'Kar and not the other way around.
Yeah, he's the instigator.
So this is an important step in their relationship because so far it's just been, oh, G'Kar's so mean to Londo, and Londo's just a drunk, sad ambassador man who doesn't want to be here. And this is the like, oh, Londo can dish it out too. And
yeah, or this is the first time that we see Londo being the instigator.
Yeah.
And okay, maybe Jakar isn't always just being an asshole.
And this is 4D chess. He had to know that Jakar was going to need this.
How many Narn years has Londo had this plant?
The Jaquan Eth.
Yeah.
Well, he says it's so he can get high. So honestly, he probably had it for that. But
He probably always has one.
But this is a delightful side benefit.
This was an opportunistic fucking with Jakar.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, the universe has provided me with this opportunity. Who am I to turn down the goddess of fate?
Yeah. Oh, Jakar's big mad that his Jaquan Eth got blown up in the cargo bay. Oh, I have one of those.
He did
and
just
then
say.
And then he pulls up Google. Oh, shit. It's really important to him.
He did just say that he and the goddess of fate have a dubious relationship. And this is a moment where she pays off for him.
Yeah.
Because we cut to Jakar performing a religious rite. I love that they let Andreas sing.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the first time where he gets to he's doing his essentially. He's doing his
meditation.
His meditation chanting. And somebody commented on the episode, the Parliament of Dreams episode, that maybe the assassination attempt was the Narn religious exhibit because everybody else got to show their religion. Maybe assassination is, well, and maybe it is, but also maybe this too, because he gets this cool, to you I give the grain and the light and the sky and the land and the sea. Jaquan is his religious figure. I don't know how much like a god they are because they have several of them. We know they have at least Jaquan and Jalan.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if these are more like the heralds in the Cosmere
in the Stormlight
Archive, where they're just heroic figures who have become godlike over
mythological
time.
Heroes.
Or if this is an actual god, like the gods, like the pantheon of Centauri gods, which we just rewatched The Last Starfighter. And I totally forgot that not only are the ship designs similar to Star Fury's, but the main character's name is Centauri. Yeah. Anyway. And again, I have to question the logic of having open flame candles on a spaceship. But maybe they have a really good fire suppression system and they're just deeply
if
unconcerned.
it's a big enough spaceship and it's compartmentalized.
It's fine, I guess. Plus, they're for religious purposes, so...
And this is this Jakar in his quarters, or is this a separate room?
He's in his quarters because Natoth comes to see him.
His rooms, each ambassador's rooms are considered land of their homeworld.
Well, they have a lot of religious exemptions.
For legal stuff, yeah.
If the Jaquan
they also have a lot of diplomatic exemptions.
Yeah, but if the Jaquan Eth had been part of Londo's religious practice, he would have been allowed to keep it. But later, they're like, that's a controlled botanical substance, dude. You can't have it unless it's for medical or religious purposes.
I think he could have had it had he filled out the proper forms.
Well, no, because it's basically like cocaine or weed. He couldn't have it unless it was for medical or religious purposes. He can file for a exemption.
Right. Yeah. He didn't fill out the paperwork.
No, he didn't fill it because it wasn't about that.
Mm-hmm.
But he's wearing this little robe and hood. It is so cute. And while he's in the middle of his mantra, the doorbell rings, and it's Natoth. And she's like, "Ambassador." And so he has to wrap up with, "So spoke Jaquan at the dawn of all mornings. Come in." Come in. And of course it's Natoth, who's about to walk away when Jakar opens the door. And she has come to tell him that whatever was in the ship that got blown up, the Jaquan Eth, which we don't quite know what it is yet at this point in the episode, it got destroyed. And he's like, "Oh no, destroyed? And she's like, "Yeah, the whole cargo area blew up." He does not ask about the pilot.
Oh, no.
No. That's not that kind of religion. He's like, "But what about my flower? What about my Jaquan Eth? And she's like, no, yeah, that's gone. So he looks so upset. He sits down and he goes, no, oh no. And he puts his hand over his mouth like, oh shit, oh no. And this is when we come back to Neoma.
So the reason the name stood out to me is because it's pronounced different ways almost every time someone says it.
Connolly.
One time it's Neoma.
Mm-hmm.
Sinclair very clearly says Neoma. But then I think Garibaldi says Naomi.
I have it as Namora. And after a while, I forgot Orenzento's name, and I just started calling him Bento Box. So that's in my notes. So we've got a lot going on here.
I'm going with Naomi.
Okay. No, it ends with an O-R-A. It's Namora or Neoma.
Oh, do you think they're just using nicknames for her?
Well, in the subtitles, it's Naoma. And then I think Garibaldi gets it wrong.
Pippin.
How about we just call her Connolly? He's fine.
I think that's a good option.
If you guys hear Pippin in the background, just know that he is communing with the spirits in the corner right now. And we don't have a real good containment system set up yet, but we're prioritizing providing content. So please enjoy the ASMR of the cat in the background. But she is the representative of the Docker Guild. Dockers. That's what they keep calling them. Not dock workers. They just shorten it. Dockers. And she is chatting with Ivanova, Sinclair, and Jakar. And I know this is supposed to look like an informal, like, what the fuck happened meeting, but it looks like a tribunal because they're lined up like the Last Supper. It's like Ivanova, Sinclair, and Jakar are all lined up behind this table. And I'm like, we have a round table room. We have a room
for this
where we have and we're in it later. No, we're not actually. We're like at the end of this table later. Maybe we repurposed that set already. I don't know, but they keep having to lean awkwardly to keep themselves in the frame because she's pacing back and forth, acting very dramatically, like she's doing a really good job. But in order to like keep everybody present in the frame, they keep having to like lean forward. It's an odd moment. I'm not sure exactly why we chose this, but it's okay. I guess so that she could pace dramatically because she can't pace. If she was circling it, the same thing would happen. And they're like computer error, human error. I mean, we don't know which it could be. Even if it was human error, we've all been working double and triple shifts with no turnaround. Like basically we've been working around the clock with no rest. How can we be blamed for being too tired, for making mistakes? And here's my point on this. They're all working triple shifts. It has already led to an intergalactic incident. This is not like a busy season. This isn't going to change. You are asking these people to continue doing this in perpetuity.
Right.
It's not like this is some special, this is the summer and everybody is coming up here for tourism.
Right.
This
and
is literally status quo.
Hunker down for a couple months.
Yeah. And like triple shifts means they're not sleeping. They're just working. So you're asking these people to work without rest in perpetuity. And they're all like, yeah, of course we are. You signed a contract.
Yeah, my thought was, okay, then you close down some number of docks so that you can schedule a sustainable number of docks to be open and fully staffed in a way that everybody can rest.
Well, then you can't get as much cargo run through. Yeah.
And then there's economic pressure against the Earth government because they're not getting the import-export taxes.
Right.
And that's the only way you can pressure them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. The dock workers are following the safety guidelines rather than violating safety guidelines, safety rules. Sure, we could say, well, is there any way you can open up like 2 more docks? We cannot run 2 more docks
safely
in a way that is compliant with safety and regulations rules. So either you get me more people, or you change the safety rules.
This is the episode that made me think that this could happen, that this could be the same world, like the same universe as Murderbot, but like 200 years earlier. Because this felt very corporate rim. Later, especially when Oronzento is talking to Sinclair, and Sinclair is like, people have died. This is so serious that someone died. And Oronzento literally says, spare me your platitudes. Like, yeah, and his replacement's already on the way. I don't understand what your problem is. It's a very like, we own these people. They signed a contract. They are indentured servants because they cannot quit and they cannot go on strike. They literally must show up for work when assigned to work.
Right. I would go malicious compliance with this and say, okay, I'm going to schedule sane shifts for everybody following every single one of the safety regulations.
Yeah.
And then I have like firm ground to stand on when they come back and say, but we're not getting enough shifts through.
Yeah. Why is there a backup? Then you give people the complaint line for the Senate. Okay. Well,
it's not my fault. It's their fault.
Yeah.
I'm doing everything I can legally to run this station.
And that may have been what Sinclair would do, but he's never given that opportunity because
that would have been Connolly's strategy.
Well, she would have had to have approval from Sinclair to close docks.
But I think she would have authority to close docks down if they cannot be operated safely.
Because they cut her out immediately. Like, she's telling them, we're working triple shifts. We're moving as fast as we can. This shit's fucked up. And Sinclair's like, great, love it for you. And then he looks over to Ivanova and he's like, how soon can we have Dock 6 open? And she's like, well, we're working on repairs right now. Should be a couple of hours.
Yeah, they may not even have the like legal or regulatory authority to shut down some docks.
Yeah. Yeah, it would really depends. There's things we don't know in terms of like what other ways this could have been solved. We don't know what the worker contracts look like. Mm-hmm. We don't know if in the contract it says you will work like a reasonable number of hours, or you will have X number of breaks, or you will have X number of hours.
Well, that's where the regulations supersede the contracts.
Right. Well, because we don't know what the regulations look like either. Right. We don't know who has authority here. Connolly is effectively like the union rep. She's like the head of the guild.
She's
the voice of the workers.
Is the foreman.
Yeah. So the person in charge of what is open and what isn't open, we don't know, because this is a military operation. It's a military base.
That's a good point.
The leader of Babylon 5 is a military position.
Yeah, and they're military contractors.
And they are contracted with like the Senate. They are contracted with
through Earth government.
Yeah. So are they also under the military umbrella? Because the
Earth Force is the military branch.
Yeah.
And it is a part of Earth Alliance, which is the Earth government.
Right, but the budget military increase in spending does not cover
that's a good
point. The dock workers. So the increase in military spending excludes the sort of domestic function of Babylon 5, the logistics. Yeah. Like, why is it even a cargo port? Who is shipping cargo to Babylon 5 to then ship it out? Like,
well, it's because Babylon 5 is a neutral port for trade negotiations.
Right, but why? Anyway. The thing here is we don't know all the moving pieces to be able to get like here's the best solution. And so we have to work with what we have, which is clearly there is no protections under the contract for the workers whatsoever. The regulations are guidelines. Nobody gives a shit whether you're following them or not, because when they're like, they are having to violate safety procedures in order to get the cargo moved through quickly enough, the Senate is like, great, sounds like they're running efficiently. Good job, y'all. They don't give a shit. And they immediately go over Sinclair's head when it comes to negotiating with labor. Mm-hmm. They do not give him time to figure this out. They literally just go, okay, we're sending a guy. So that's all we've got to work with, because we're having this meeting and Sinclair literally looks at her and he's like, we're not here to blame anybody. This isn't about blaming anyone. This is about diagnosing the issue so it doesn't happen again. and he already has a 5 o'clock shadow, he is going to look rough this whole episode. And there's a part where he has his sleeves rolled up and he like lifts his arm. And this is a hairy motherfucker. I literally in my notes, I put, forget choose the man or choose the bear. You can just choose Sinclair and have both. Because his like 5 o'clock shadow is like the bottom 2/3 of his face.
Yeah.
The only place he doesn't have 5 o'clock shadow is his nose.
I was wondering if part of his 5 o'clock shadow was makeup.
I don't think so. I think they were just like, can you not shave for a couple of hours? And he was like, yeah, fine. I hate shaving every hour and a half anyway. Like, it kind of reminds me of in Death Becomes Her. They didn't want Bruce Willis's character to have a 5 o'clock shadow so bad. They put makeup over it and it makes him look like gray all around where his face is, where his beard would be. I think he probably literally has to shave several times during filming he's so fucking hairy. Like when he lifted his arm up, it was just brown fur. Anyway, I want to point that out. I like that this episode is his like, poor Sinclair. He's working so hard. He is working so hard. And there's a part where he just undoes his button and leaves it undone for like 3 meetings. Like, you are inconveniencing me and you will know because you will smell the stank that is coming out of this full polyester suit that I am wearing. Oh, but I love the part where Sinclair, that's their couple name. Jakar and Sinclair. Jakar, god damn. Hang on. Okay, here we go. I'm going again. You ready?
Slow down.
Ooh. Jakar leans forward and he's like, oh no, but I actually am here to assign blame. No, that's exactly why I'm here, actually, because my government will want to know who is responsible for the damage to the ship. Like,
but then once Ivanova says, the Narn captain panicked, and that's why this all happened. She's like,
try your
don't
pilot.
blame us.
She goes, how about the guy who started his engines in the docking bay? And he's like, what? No, that's beside the point. That's immaterial.
We're not here to blame people.
He goes, don't blame this on us, Lieutenant Commander. We are the victims here. Yes.
You can suffer from your own mistakes.
You can be the victim of your own bad choices. And she's like, yeah, okay, you lost some cargo, but someone lost their life. Someone actually died. And he's like, yeah, so sad. Anyway. And then he's like, actually, I got to go. I have a pressing matter. So he dips. And this is when Garibaldi enters. This whole episode is a series of people leaving and then Garibaldi immediately appearing.
Like, what did I miss?
Like, Jakar leaves and Garibaldi is literally walking in the door right after he's leaving. And he goes, yeah, the malfunction was caused by equipment failure. There's bad chips and there's bad chips in everything. And now I guess we know why the lowest bidder was the lowest bidder.
They got counterfeit control systems.
They got Temu chips and stuck them in there. And so obviously we have to now go through and replace all the chips. And that's going to cost money. And this is where in my notes I put this episode is giving such corporate rim vibes. The lowest bidder, cheapest shit possible. It doesn't matter if it fails because it's cheaper to pay the death benefits for the workers that die than it is to do a good job and do it right in the first place. And this is when Sinclair and Ivanova basically dismiss Connolly and just look at each other. And they're like, how quickly can we get Dock 6 open so we can get our cargo back on track? And Connolly is looking at them like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I just told you. This is not doable. This is not sustainable. And she goes, the problems dockside run a lot deeper than a few microchips, Commander. And then she just drops the mic and gets ready to leave. Like, I'm out. Taking my sassy little A-line skirt out of here. I don't know why they don't have her wear pants. This is such a minor. Is she not wearing pants? No,
I thought
she doesn't wear pants. She's wearing heels and hose and an A-line skirt and a button-up shirt tucked into her skirt. This entire episode. And I am not sure. It's a quibble. It's so minor. It doesn't even matter. But why is she not wearing pants? She is supposed to be representing like a blue collar workforce. And it feels a little like code switching. Like she's getting on her fancy suit to talk to the fancy people so they'll take her seriously. But I think her character works a lot better if we had given her like a nice pair of pants. She could have worn a
maybe it's a 90s thing because she's supposed to be like an administrative woman.
Yeah, but then they give her a button-up shirt, like an oversized button-up shirt that she tucks into it. And it's a good look. It's fine. It looks really nice on her. At one point, she takes her jacket off and rolls her sleeves up and then does this like, we're all working together. Like this, let's go have this negotiation. But she's like, she can't take a full step in her skirt because it narrows so much by her knees. Anyway, it's fine. It's an interesting costume choice for someone who's supposed to be seen as a worker because it makes her feel like, has she ever actually worked on the dock? Or does she work in an office?
Right.
I don't know. Probably. She probably works in the office as like the scheduler.
Didn't notice.
You didn't notice. That's fine. You didn't. It's fine. It's not like we have a podcast where we're supposed to nitpick this stuff or anything. But he stops her. Sinclair stops her and he's like, yeah, I know there's problems. I'm fucking working on it. I requested a larger budget. God. I requested a larger budget from the Senate. I just hope they listen. And she's like, yeah, you mean before someone else gets killed? Like, I really hope I get some more hope I get a bigger chunk of change before somebody else loses their life. And this is when immediately Sinclair gets a call from Senator Hidoshi about the budget. And I love the timeline in this episode because everything happens right when it needs to. It's not like 2 weeks later and then he gets a call. It's like, oh no, here's your budget call. And he's like, okay, great. So he goes off to take his call and we cut to where G'Kar went. Because remember, G'Kar had pressing business, which it turns out means going to the Zocalo to try and buy a Jaquan-et. So he's talking to
the flower shop.
From the flower shop. So he's talking to the guy at the flower shop who clearly has a mask with a mouth that doesn't move because he just goes, sounds like a thwomp. And he ends up leaving. Like, no, I don't have your fucking flower. And I'm so mad you asked. I'm going to abandon my whole shop and just walk off and leave it here. And this is another moment where every time somebody exits, somebody else enters with another vital piece of information. This happens so much in this episode because the flower shop guy leaves. And as soon as he leaves, Londo pops up. They must be lined up off screen because he walks in and he's like, oh, hey, are you doing a little shopping? I thought that wasn't permitted during the days of Jaquan. And G'Kar's like, the fuck you want, Malari? The only reason I want this show to ever be remade is so that G'Kar can cuss. Because he literally just goes, what is it you want, Malari? But he would absolutely go, what the fuck do you want? Why are you here? What is your purpose for being here?
It'd be funny if they remade it with internal monologues.
G'Kar's is just a string of obscenities. And Londo's is bleeped out, like it has a black line across it because it's just like sex thoughts. That's all it is. So I love how they always give Peter Jurasik a prop because he walks up and picks up this flower so he can sniff the flower, look at the flower, because they both have to turn straight on to the camera to have this conversation.
Yeah.
So it makes it feel more natural if he's fussing around with this flower instead of them just like standing shoulder to shoulder staring at the camera. But he's like, hey, heard about your transport. Shocking. Truly shocking. If there's anything you need, you'll let me know, right? And G'Kar goes, no. And he's just like, and walks away. And you as the viewer are like, oh, this is going to be good. Because then he leaves and Natath, boop, boop, a pop pops out from the left.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, there is no one who can have Jaquan-et delivered here in time for the ceremony. And G'Kar goes, swak!
Yeah, G'Kar cussed.
Yeah, he cussed in. You know what? We needed cuss words like in Farscape. Where they can't cuss because it doesn't translate them. So it's Frel.
Yeah.
And yeah. But he goes, swak. And Natath drops the news. However, there is one being on the station who has one already. And Jakar goes, oh, yeah, who? Ambassador Malari. And he just goes,
And
what?
Peter Jursic is waiting in the open
I know, then they
elevator
like
to do his little wave.
zoom into the tube in the back and he goes, yoo-hoo! And he does
Jakar. Doing a little shopping, are you? Is that permitted during the holidays of Jaquan?
It's no concern of yours, Malari.
I heard about the mishap involving your transport. Shocking, truly shocking. If there is anything I can do to be of assistance, you will let me know, yes?
No. Well,
There's no one who can have a Jaquan F delivered in time for the ceremony. However, according to import records, there is one being on the station who has the flower.
well, who is it?
Ambassador Malari.
What? Yoo-hoo!
Why does the universe hate me?
He does this laugh and wave thing like, it's the best. The fucking best. The best. Jakar and Londo are the entire reason that I love this show. Because the door actually shuts on him laughing and waving with both hands like, ha! It's fucking on, bitch! And then he leaves. It's so good. And Jakar goes, why does the universe hate me? But then we cut back to Sinclair and Senator Hitoshi in the CNC. He's like not in his little playpen. He's outside of it, leaning on the back part of it. So you can only see like his chin up. And it's the senator saying, yeah, so sorry to hear you literally don't have enough money to function. Sounds really terrible. Maybe after a bit, we'll send you some money, but I don't know. Tut-tut looks like rain. You're not getting any fucking money. Best of luck, bro.
Yeah, maybe in the next round of discretionary funding discussions.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll give you $5. I don't know, dude. I don't know what to tell you. You're going to have to figure this shit out because I got nothing for you. He could just start accepting bribes and redirecting it to the cargo bay. You want to move up in line?
Tariffs.
Don't even start. I did actually put in here, like, there are revenue streams to make this cash positive. He just has to work it so that it stays in Babylon 5 because clearly this is an in-demand port.
Right.
So if you can't decrease traffic, you have to increase revenue. So you either have to increase the fee for using the port or you provide expedited services for a fee. Free for everyone, but if you want ahead of the line, you got to pay a fee. But it gets sticky because this is supposed to be a neutral port, and certain races are obviously going to be able to pay more than others. And yeah, anyway, that's a whole kettle of fish, but it would be an interesting, we're not going to explore it because it'd be the most boring episode of television ever, like figuring out the tax code for how the different races would use this port.
I think
But
it would be a great spin-off series of just short, like 20, 30-minute episodes of
just the bureaucracy.
having like boring bureaucratic discussions with background characters, and enough fans of the regular show would be like, oh my God, more lore.
Yeah.
More world building. Heck yeah.
Yes.
That it could be a successful endeavor.
Well, you think about what's happening concurrently with this in 1994 is the only other like major sci-fi properties we have are Star Trek. And Star Trek doesn't give a shit about who cleans your toilet.
Right.
Okay? They don't. That's not. We've talked about this before. There still have to be people who perform day-to-day functions like garbage pickup and phone sanitation and blah, blah, blah. And if you have a socialist society where everyone is capable of following their dreams, somebody still has to pick up shit. Somebody still has to do the grunt work.
Yeah.
So how do you decide who cleans out the like shit intake valves or whatever? Like,
Well, I think that's why you have enlisted officers, like enlisted people
on Earth. People still live on Earth. People still live day-to-day things on Earth.
You'd have civil servants.
Yeah. But you can't automate every job. Some jobs are going to have to be done by people. So how do you decide who does the least desirable jobs?
Yeah, you have to incentivize.
Right. We don't talk about it because when you watch Star Trek, you don't want to know who cleans the toilet.
Right.
That's not what anybody cares about. You just because you're there for the whatever. But Babylon 5 created a world where we have to care about the people who are loading and unloading cargo. Like we have to care about the dock workers and the fact that they're not getting paid enough. And for someone who is going from the currently airing sci-fi show of Star Trek, like Deep Space Nine, where, there's interesting characters, but we don't really talk about the day-to-day work people. Then you go to Babylon 5, and Babylon 5 is like, we didn't get enough of a budget increase, and somebody died. And now we have to talk about workers' rights. It would have felt extreme enough without having to go into the nitty-gritty details of all of the other stuff. That's what I'm trying to get at. This would have felt complete enough. We're only nitpicking it because we are accustomed to a wide variety of shows that you wouldn't have been accustomed to in 1994. Because it feels ubiquitous, we are capable of asking more questions. I think it's fine. I think they answer enough questions to make this a good story. I think they answer enough questions to get their story across. But you're right. I think it does leave an opening for, I don't know, like an animated series even, where somebody did like 5 to 10 minute shorts on YouTube where they talked about we've talked about it before, where what if you had non-human people on the security team and then you followed a human and a non-human security couple. Pair.
Yeah, team, partners.
Partners, that's couple. What I couldn't think of the word for it. Partnership as they did their day-to-day job on Babylon 5. I think that'd be really fun. So, again, I don't know where we started, but that's where we ended. But Sinclair fires back at Hitoshi. He's like, we have actual safety concerns. We have an actual problem right now. There's already been an accident. And the senator's like, yes, terrible. Anyways, no one gives a shit. Okay, so, I'm sorry, a poor person died? But they're not like real people though, right? Like it's fine. It's fine.
We just hire more of them.
There's plenty of them. You just get another one. They're like lying around on the street. You just pick one up, give it a job. And he goes, our experts assure us that your new budget is sufficient for safe and efficient running of Babylon 5. And I want to know who their experts are.
Right. Yeah, that's always the follow-up on those kinds of things.
Who's your expert?
Who are your experts?
Is it?
What experience do they have? Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally like some 20-year-old kid at Harvard was like, I don't think they need that much money. And they're like, an expert has spoken.
You can be really selective about your experts.
And he goes, Commander, I have every confidence that you will make it work. And then ends the transmission.
Yeah.
And of course, the news about the budget has already leaked. And Garibaldi says the business station is already running a detailed analysis of the new budget. So shit's already hit the fan. And this is when I asked, is there a docking and a cargo fee? Could we institute some sort of a fee? It would reduce traffic, but increase revenue.
Right, and they could supplement the dock workers'
but I think
salaries.
We've already had a long enough discussion about that. Yeah. That's where somebody needs to make the animated TV show. They talk about it. And he goes, I better have a separate meeting with Connolly. Because, that's a fractious situation. There's shit happening there. I need to make sure that gets my personal Sinclair touch. Maybe I'll undo my top button. Let my beard grow out a little bit. Really accentuate my authority. And Garibaldi goes, she will be spitting neutrons. She'll be mad. Big mad, bro. Because the dock workers got zipped. No pay raise, no money for new workers, and no updated equipment. Someone died, and they were like, okay, so anyway, here's your budget. And Sinclair points out that, they're all bound by a government contract. They can't quit And they can't go on strike, so why give them anything? Correct. Fucking-wrecked. That's wild. It's wild that they all signed a contract that doesn't allow them to quit.
Right.
They literally can't just not go to work.
They could, but there's consequences.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like we pay your fare to go out there, and if you quit, you have to reimburse. I don't know, but they're just like they can't quit, and that's so fucking wild. And they also can't demand anything. They can't go on strike. And this is when Ivanova pops in and she's like, "Commander, we have a problem." And he goes, "Surprise, surprise." And it's because all the dock workers are calling in sick. And luckily, Garibaldi calls in immediately. He's like, "Oh, the blue flu. My grandmother was a Boston cop, and they used to call in sick to get around labor sanctions. Because you can't go on strike, but everybody can be sick." And Sinclair's like, "Oh, you mean we have an illegal strike on our hands?" And then we get a wide shot of all of the ships that are waiting to be able to dock and can't dock, and they're all just waiting around Babylon 5. And then we come to the corridor of conflict. Ye old hallway with the catwalk. The location of all turmoil on Babylon 5. And here's where they're all yelling about the current issues. And this is really to inform the viewer about specifically what is the problem. They're like, "We need a 10-hour turnaround between shifts." And it's like, if you are not a shift worker, you may not realize that sometimes you get like an hour or two between shifts, or if that. So you as the viewer would be like,
I've had a couple times where I close open.
Yeah.
And it's like 6 hours, 7 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. But if you had never been a shift worker, there are people who go through life without ever working for shitty employers. And so this is the moment where we are informing the viewer about what the actual issues are, because they're all shouting them at the screen, at Connolly. They're like, "We need a rest between shifts. We need to be able to safely keep up with quotas. Like, we need to not sacrifice safety in order to keep up with our quota for getting cargo in and out." And these are all really good points. Yes, you should have enough people that you don't have to work shifts closer than 10 hours together. Yes, you should be able to unload cargo quickly enough and safely enough and keep up with your quota. They're all making really good points. And they're like, "Yeah, okay, that's why we're going to go on strike." And they start chanting strike. And this is when Connolly is like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa. First of all, we're not going to say the word strike anymore, because that's the no-no word. We don't say the no-no word.
Right.
And we're going to have to try to keep a cool head during our not strike negotiations." And this is when Garibaldi arrives to get Connolly, because Sinclair has been trying to get her to come and have a meeting with him. And she's basically just not gone. And she takes her jacket off and hands it to Del Vientos and rolls her sleeve up. But not before she gets to make the joke, "Sorry, I've been tied up. I got a lot of sick workers here." And they all start coughing. And she goes, "We're as serious as a rip in a spacesuit." Which is a serious problem.
Yeah.
So, correct. If you wanted to set a seriousness, we are as serious as death. And Garibaldi goes, "I thought you were smarter than this." And this brings me to my one main quibble with this whole episode, which is that we put the onus of negotiations solely on the shoulders of Connolly. That the strike is her fault, that everything that is happening is her fault. I thought you were smarter than this. What exactly was the alternative that she was supposed to be doing?
Right.
What is she not doing that they're all expecting her to do? That's
Just
not clear to me.
Keep the workers in line.
Keep working. Okay, but they all know that there is an issue.
From the Senate's perspective, Connolly's job is babysitter.
Well, from the Senate. I'm not talking about the Senate. I'm talking about Garibaldi, Sinclair. They all imply multiple times that Connolly should have just kept them working. Okay, but also while admitting that the current working situation is untenable. We can't continue working like this. Why did you continue working like this?
Oh, it's rattling a lot. Oh, there's bad parts on it. Like,
Why did you turn it off?
The flywheel is cracked. If we just keep running it at full speed, it's going to fly apart into shrapnel and kill people around it.
Yeah.
As a metaphor for
So why
did
you turn the engine off? I thought you were smarter than that.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
Right. Which is really pretentious.
At one point, Del Viento, the surviving brother, is like, yeah, I've worked on docks for 40 years. This equipment isn't going to last 2 months. So what happens when there's another major equipment failure and an ambassador dies?
Mm-hmm.
What happens when there's another major equipment failure and some other kind of Mimbari cargo gets destroyed?
Yeah.
What happens when a major incident is caused? And we're going to come back to this.
Where's the OSHA rep?
We're going to come back to this because
Maybe they
I
got
think
rid of that for military bases.
I think that's the whole entire point. This is where this episode ties back into the major story arc of the series, which is the worsening conditions of Earth and Earth government.
Mm-hmm.
And Babylon 5 represents something that the world, the Earth government no longer wants to represent, which is an attempt at
they want
diplomacy.
To let it run down and fail.
They want it to fail spectacularly.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like there are certain things that are so self-sufficient, you cannot simply let it fail. It will not fail on its own. So you have to engineer failure.
Yeah.
And I think that Sinclair was intended to be the failure. I think,
right, because he's a military guy and they're expecting him to run.
Well, I think they were expecting him to fail because he is a dead-end military guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's a damaged, on-the-line survivor whose career completely stalled. They assigned him to this backwater, Hail Mary, probably relic of a previous administration.
They picked him because they expected him to be bad at the job.
They expected him to fail, and he has not failed, and he has not failed spectacularly. Like, he's doing a really good job. So now you have to engineer failure. And so if you can, I'm so sorry.
If you can defund critical infrastructure.
We're not defunding anything. We're in a recession. We couldn't afford. We have
to cut the fat.
Because you watch how all of the language is pushing it back on Sinclair. Our experts believe you have enough money to run that station as long as you're doing it efficiently.
Oh, are you not good enough to do this?
I have every faith that you're going to make this work out. And then when he doesn't make it work, he fails. They didn't fail.
Mm-hmm.
They provided him with the budget. They gave him money. Experts said he should have been able to do it with that. So there must be some kind of corruption and inefficiency happening on Babylon 5.
Mm-hmm.
We should probably shut it down. We should probably fire everybody on there, shut it down, and completely defund it. Scuttle the station and be done with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because think about how long it took to build Babylon 5. 5 attempts.
Yeah.
It's probably a relic of a previous mindset. And now Earth is becoming more isolationist. It is becoming more extremist. It is becoming more similar to the U.S. Authoritarian. Similar to the U.S. in World War II. Right before World War I, where we were becoming more isolationist.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's turning in on itself. We have to solve our own problems. Earth is for Earth, blah, blah, blah. And then you have this U.S. aid. You have this thing that is out there providing a service, and it is funded and staffed by the Earth government.
Mm-hmm.
And so seeing it fail would be a critical part of outreach doesn't work.
Right.
Being out there and trying to interact with these aliens is a failed prospect. We should have never built it in the first place. And so that, I think, is what is really the tie-in. And that's why my main quibble is that Sinclair and Garibaldi go along with the idea that the solution was business as usual at any point ever.
Mm-hmm.
Because Sinclair knows full well the business as usual is not how this is going to get solved.
Yeah.
But yet he continuously tells Connolly to continue conducting business as usual. And I think he thinks it's because there's a channel for him to be able to get this solved.
Right. He's acting in good faith, and he's assuming or trusting that the Senate is acting in good faith.
But never once is he like, give me 1 month. Can you guys keep this up for 1 month? And if you can't give me 1 month, we'll see what we can do. He's just like, oh, I can't. You're so stupid. I thought you were smarter than that. I hope we can come up with a solution, Miss Connolly. And she's like, okay, well, maybe the other guy better come up with a solution then because I've already told you my part. They act antagonistic when they should have been acting like cooperatively. And that's okay. It's just like it's fine. It all works out in the end.
Sinclair
anyway.
is trying to get that vibe going with the dock workers to say, like, look, I'm on your side.
Yeah.
I'm doing everything I can.
But he should have just explicitly stated,
right.
Could you give me a month? Can you keep them working for 1 month? And she says, no. I think even if he had, I'm not certain she would have gone along with it because it's actively unsafe.
Right.
So you're actually, if she had and there was another accident and somebody else died.
Right. Now it's even worse.
And she tells him, look, we're only doing what we have to do. And Garibaldi responds with, I know how you feel, but this isn't the way. What is the way then? Okay. Well, okay, right, Garibaldi. Spell it out for me. And she goes, what other options do we have? And that's a really good question. Especially since it's later implied that a negotiator came last year and promised them all raises, but then didn't do it. Either didn't write it down or lost the paperwork. So that when they bring it up, the guy's like, sorry, I couldn't find that written anywhere. My hands are tied. So it sounds like they've tried other ways before and it didn't work. So what was left to them? Exactly what they're doing right now, which is causing a ruckus. So she follows Garibaldi and he's like, well, we just want to help Neoma. And this one, she's like, let's go. And she does this like point thing, walks off screen. And she's like, okay, we'll see. We'll see. You say you want to help, but like, we'll see. And this is when Sinclair is trying to negotiate with her directly. He's like, look, you've got to go back to work or I'm going to have to involve the Senate Labor Committee. And then they might invoke the Rush Act. Fun fact, they say Rush Act either 12 or 13 times in this episode. And it's like 10 minutes in before they start saying it. So they literally say it like every 2 minutes from here to the end of the episode. And this is a made-up law. I looked it up. This isn't a current law or anything. It's a made-up Earth Force law about strike busting.
Yep.
And she's like, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't sacrifice public opinion by invoking the Rush Act. And Sinclair's like, Earth is changing and not in a good way. So I really wouldn't put any faith in them caring about public opinion. God, sometimes the parallels are so painful. So anyway, I just want to pause for a minute and just take a deep breath because wow. The slow descent into authoritarianism is the only unbelievable part because it turns out you can expedite that shit.
Right.
So this is the scene where they're trying to convince Connolly to send everyone back to work because she's forcing the Senate to do things. And like, yeah, brah, that's why she's doing it.
Right.
And that's her attitude the whole time. They're like, you're forcing the Senate to act. And she's like, yeah, I know. And they're like, you really want to do this? And she's like, yeah, I kind of do. Like, I think that's kind of why I'm doing it. And she tells him, don't tell me about consequences. My father was shot dead during the mining strikes on Ganymede in 1937. I've spent my entire life defending workers' rights. And I'm not going to stop now. Okay, well, I think she's a subject matter expert.
Which would have been like 21 years prior.
Yeah.
Would have been the 37.
Yeah, so when she was young, her dad died in a mining strike. And now you're like, you could die. And she's like, yeah, I know. Okay. I want to know, did the mining strike on Ganymede work? Like, did they get more or did they just die? And I know Sinclair has the obligation to try and get them back to work with minimal Earth intervention. And I honestly think that's his entire thing here. It's like, we don't want them looking at us too closely. Like, Earth is real fucked up right now. And I would love to not be
We don't want them micromanaging the station.
I would really love for them to not be. I got to do my job. I got to report this. I got to keep them in the loop. And I would really, really love to not have a loop to keep them in. Like, can you try to... I think he's trying to find a way to solve this in a way that keeps Earth out of Babylon 5 affairs.
Right.
Which makes sense because the last time an Earth representative was there, Garibaldi ended up drunk in a bar and on the run. So, like, I don't know, feels like a bad idea. But again, if they go back to work and cause no problems, there will probably be no solutions. You don't solve a problem that's not a problem. So they got to be a problem if they want solutions. I just don't. I'm having a hard time making it click. Like, I'm having a hard time. It's not a bad episode. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm really having a hard time understanding motivations for the different characters. And I think that's really the sticking point for me is like.
It could also be manufactured for plot, just to get the plot moving.
I just don't believe that Sinclair would be like, go back to work. God damn, what's your problem? I've been in the ship. I could have died in the ship. We could all die tomorrow. Get back to fucking work. Like, I just don't think that would be his stance. And I don't necessarily think that's what they were going for, but that's what it comes off as.
Mm-hmm.
And Garibaldi as well. It comes off as like, we're on one side of this conflict and we are siding with the Senate's belief that you guys need to keep to working because you signed a contract. Whereas I don't think Garibaldi for 1 minute would honor a contract over what he believed was right.
Right.
But it's fine. It works for the episode. It just feels out of character for these two people. Mm-hmm. I can see Ivanova being like, yeah, and go back to fucking work.
Right.
We don't involve her in that way.
Right. Garibaldi, I feel like Garibaldi's line would be something more like, look, we got to go through these motions.
Yeah.
To placate the Senate. But
trust Sinclair. He's going to get this worked out. We're doing everything we
can to get them in line.
And Sinclair does have a solution. He's ready with the solution when it pops up. I think had anyone given him the time to try to get the solution through the Senate, it would have worked. Like, keep our budget the same, but reallocate this money over to here.
Right.
It's fine.
And I think when Zento says, I'm invoking the Rush Act, right before that, Sinclair is saying, I've been going over the budget.
He says it twice.
Right.
He tries to tell people twice.
He's probably trying to say, hey, look, I can cut 1 million credits off of the military budget increase.
Yeah.
Because we don't fucking need it.
Right.
And the Senate can formally allocate those 1 million credits to the dock workers or to the dock budget.
Listen, it's Sinclair. He could have justified it as this is avoiding conflict. And so therefore it is a military application for these funds.
Right. And he could probably say, okay, yeah, I'm going to internally manage the budget and have the Babylon 5 military budget subsidize the dock budget. But that would probably get flack from the
not if he justified it with
oversight committee or something.
This is a way of like maintaining peaceful
relations. I think he's trying to go through the protocol of getting that budget reallocated.
Yeah.
But no one ever gives him a chance to actually outline it.
I don't think that's explained very well until you. But then when you frame it as, I believe this is intentional, that this is an intentional attempt to sabotage Babylon 5, would he have been able?
Makes sense.
Would he have been able to get that through anyway? So it ends up being a way for us to show the uncooperativeness of the Senate with Babylon 5, the antagonistic relationship that he has with Earth Force right now and Earth government, Earth Alliance. And also show him solving a problem, a very minute problem on the spaceship, on his space station, in a way that feels believable. It ends up being a really cool moment for everybody. I just think there were certain things that could have been explained a little bit better. And for clarification, I watched this episode 3 times yesterday. And each time I was like, I don't know what. I don't know. Yeah. But it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's a filler episode. It gives us a little bit of a push towards how authoritarian Earth is becoming, the fact that they immediately jump to using the military to break this strike. It's a good moment. It works out fine. And I think we can just leave it there because we have to go back to Londo and Jakar. Because Londo arrives back in his quarters and Jakar is waiting for him. And Jakar's like, hey, you left your door unlocked. That was really careless of you. So I decided to sit here and guard your house while you were gone. And Londo goes, oh, and did you find anything interesting in my humble quarters while you were guarding it?
You left your door unlocked, Ambassador. Careless of you. I thought it best to sit here and guard your room until you return.
And did you find anything of interest in my humble quarters while you were guarding it?
No.
No.
Nope.
And Jakar's like, no. He goes, oh, no. Oh, you want a drink? Oh, right. You can't right now. Those days come to a close very soon, though, don't they? And Jakar goes, you know why I'm here. And Londo just commences gloating. He's like, oh, yeah, I know why you're here. And he goes, I'm here to purchase it from you. It sounds painful. Like, I'm here to have a legitimate business transaction with you. And Londo goes, well, I have been saving the Jaquan Eth for a special occasion. You know, if you drop the seeds into the correct mixture of alcohol, and he goes, I'm planning on getting really, really high, bro. So you're going to have to buy that from me because let me tell you, that is the entire purpose for my owning it. And it's a very good purpose as far as Londo is concerned. He goes, whole new universes open up. Shame you waste them as incense. And then he goes, well, in the name of interstellar peace and friendship, $50,000. Malari plays Jakar like a fucking fiddle.
Yep.
He's like, $50,000. And Jakar's like, what, you son of a bitch? And he stands up and he's like, I'm not paying you that. And storms out. And Londo's just having the best day. The best day. He doesn't storm out quite yet because we get a line that I really love. Because on the surface, this is just Londo fucking with Jakar. And it is just Londo fucking with Jakar. But when Jakar says that is an outrage, Londo replies with, of course it's an outrage, but the question is, how important is it to you?
Your price. Oh, you are asking for quite a sacrifice from me. But in the interest of interstellar peace and friendship, 50,000 commercial credits in cash in advance.
That's an outrage!
Of course it's an outrage. The question is, how important is your religious ceremony to you?
How important is your religion to you? That's the question that I'm currently asking and going to figure the answer out to very soon. And this is when the senator calls. The senator must have nothing else to do. He calls
Hidoshi?
Yeah.
He's probably just getting constantly poked by the Senate to say, why is Babylon 5 not getting in line?
Right,
Why can we not get this problem quieted down?
Yeah. And he's like, I heard you have an illegal strike on your hands. And Sinclair's like, what? No. No. Strike? What? No strike. And he goes, but I have been going over the budget and this is when the senator interrupts him. That's the first time. No one ever lets him finish. He's like, I already solved the problem, guys. If everyone would just let me finish my sentence. And the senator's like, it doesn't look good that you're allowing this to happen. So we're going to go ahead and nip this in the bud. And that means we're going to be sending Oren Zento. Well, he tells him, look, you've let this continue. This is going to be a precedent. And Sinclair's like, yeah, but they have legitimate grievances. I can't just ignore their safety. That is also a terrible precedent to set. You want to talk about a bad precedent. And the senator's like, luckily for you, I am sending someone who can ignore their legitimate grievances.
Right. Part of the social contract of bureaucracy is if you have legitimate grievances, there is a path for you to follow to have those grievances addressed. And if the bureaucracy just gives you the middle finger every time you come in with your grievances,
Yeah.
okay, you're violating this contract of
Yeah.
of promising to address these grievances.
Correct.
I'm not going to follow the contract anymore.
Right. Well, they send Oren Zento, who they claim is their best labor negotiator. And again, his negotiating style is so nuanced. And they could have just given this man a laser pistol, a PPK, PPG,
PPG.
the thing,
I don't remember.
the pew pew, and just had him go pew pew and shoot.
The pew pew gun.
He could have just pew pewed a couple people and been like, haha, I am your leader now. And that literally would have been more effective than his negotiating style. Because I feel like anyone who has a reputation that precedes them as a really good negotiator isn't the best choice. Because if you've heard of how shitty he is, you're not going to listen to him. Like, oh, that Zento? Yeah, he's real good at fucking people over. Let's send him. Because now everyone knows that he's really good at fucking people over. No one's going to be like, oh, he's going to keep his promises, because they all know he's never kept a promise.
Right.
Anyway, they're like, I expect your full cooperation, including providing troops if the Rush Act is to be invoked. That's crazy town. This is where I want a full breakdown of whose responsibility is what. Why do we not have a military leader and a civilian leader of Babylon 5?
Right.
It's fine.
That would have been cool to have the running the station is a partnership between two people.
Yeah, because they're effectively saying that a military leader is in charge of the docks, which is a civilian operation.
But it's a military base.
But it provides civilian services like transportation and commerce, and it's fine. It's fine.
Or you get the military, civilian, and commercial representatives as like a 3-part leadership.
Yeah, well, that's what we need to have in the animated backstory. So he's like, that's crazy. You guys should never, you're not going to invoke the Rush Act here. Like, people are going to die. And they're like, cool, then fix it before it becomes necessary. Understood? And he's like, understood, Senator. Whatever. I have more body hair on my pinky finger than you have in your whole body. He doesn't have big dick energy. He has like big fur energy. I don't even know how to describe it. There's got to be something else for dudes that just have an excess amount of body hair. Because it's like, I could be warm in cold climates. Ha! You argue all the time that you have a lot of body hair. You just can't see it because it's skin colored.
Whatever.
It's true. It's fine. So then Zento arrives immediately. They're like, it's going to take 12 hours. And he's like, here, he is. He just goes and gets him. God, he looks like a douche. He looks like a douche bag. He has on the 90s douchebag jacket that has like the one button and it's way down by his crotch. It's terrible. He's like, oh, I heard there was an accident. He didn't read up on this shit on the 12-hour ride. What did he do?
Hey, that's small talk way to start the conversation.
Yeah. It really sounds like I was going to ask, but I don't actually give a shit. So hope we can expedite this. I've got a schedule. I've got a very tight schedule. Oh, is there a lot of rioting happening? I wonder why that could have possibly been. Maybe they're giving lots of other people the shaft.
Maybe there's a systemic issue.
Right. If your negotiator doesn't have time to negotiate, maybe there's a problem. But he's like, I need to talk to Garibaldi so I can be ready in case I need to invoke the Rush Act. Meanwhile, we go back to Malari, who's making himself a drink. And all these G's, S's, too many of them. Jakar calls and he's like, okay, I got your money. I'll pay you $50,000 credit in cash. And Londo goes, funny story. It's no longer for sale.
I changed my mind.
And then he goes, consider this a tiny, small portion of revenge for what you did to our colony on Ragesh 3 and to my nephew. Did you think I forgot? Enjoy the last few hours of your festive holiday. I know I will. And then he closes the screen. I love this for Londo. Because Jakar has been fucking with him for 12 episodes. And he finally got a moment where he got to fuck with Jakar. And he enjoyed the shit out of that. And Jakar has a little baby tantrum. And he breaks a bowl. He like tosses it off his rock table. And then he goes to hit his text. And then he's like, no. And he just pats the top of the book and sits down. He's like, I'll kill him. I'll kill him with my bare hands. No one can stop me. Sinclair can only kick me off the station. He might even thank me. He actually says in this tirade, buy my pouch.
I'll kill him with my bare hands, buy my pouch. There's nothing to stop me. Sinclair can only kick me off the station. He might even thank me.
Goes, buy my pouch, I'll kill him with my bare hands. And the mystery deepens because we know we know that Narn children are called pouchlings. So who carries the babies? Is this an enemy mine situation?
Or is this a seahorse situation?
I don't know. They look reptilian-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Who carries the babies? Or is it an egg situation? We haven't talked about whether or not, I don't know. But we know that they are compatible enough that he felt that he could directly mate with a telepath, a human telepath.
Mm-hmm.
And he has relations with human women, which doesn't necessarily mean that he has the same equipment. It just may mean that he enjoys things that he's capable of doing to other people and that they can turn around and do to him. This is a kink thing that I cannot, this is a road we cannot travel down. But, I mean, we can, but we're not gonna. But anyway, I want to point out that he buy my pouch. So I think canonically, if he were a dad, he would have at least for some, maybe it's like pandas. Remember how pandas have babies when they're like an inch and a half long?
Marsupials.
And they crawl along their fur and they like finish their development in the pouch?
Yeah, same thing with kangaroos.
Yes. So I think that's what I'm going to go with. Even if the female of the species carries the young for a certain period of time, maybe the male finishes the development. And that's why they're called pouchlings. Where's the pouch?
Or Jakar is female.
Jakar could be female. I'll refer to him as he, though. But maybe he doesn't care.
That's his preferred pronoun.
You know what? Again, this is something we cannot... Just go watch Enemy Mine. Clears a lot of stuff up. Anyway. He goes, you're not religious, are you, Natoth? And Natoth is like, well, my father was a follower of Jalan, and my mother didn't believe in much of anything. He goes, what do you believe in? And she goes, myself. And I like this because he goes, that's too easy. We all believe in something, even if it's just the blind forces of chance. And she goes, okay, well, chance favors the warrior.
You're not a follower of Jaquan, are you, Natoth?
My father was a disciple of Jalan. My mother didn't believe in much of anything.
And what do you believe in?
Myself, Ambassador.
Too easy an answer. We all believe in something greater than ourselves, even if it's just the blind forces of chance.
Chance favors the warrior.
It's a good moment because we haven't really fully explored how deep and interesting of a character Jakar is yet. We just get these little glimpses of like, it's coming.
Right.
And it's going to be so fucking good. And finally she's like, is there anything you can do? Like, is there any way to solve this problem? And he goes, I mean, there is one thing, which I hate to do. But if that should fail, I have a task for you. And she just goes, at your service. And then we go back to the labor negotiations. I like that this Londo Jakar plot is breaking this up because otherwise this would be a lot of like just it's a lot.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to convince them that he's trying to convince the workers that he understands their plight. But there's a recession on. And don't they want to help the government by taking one for the team?
This has very like service industry, but we're a family.
But we're a family. You don't want to hurt your family, do you? You're hurting your family.
We all have to make sacrifices for the family.
And it would be real helpful if he could have ditched the suit and the smarm. They're like, you guys, you're working so hard. And he tries with, They've cut the fat, sure, but not the muscle or the bone. How's that supposed to motivate me? Sure, we're not going to pay you a lot, but you guys are so strong and so tough. You're such rugged individuals. I can just see you pulling yourself up with your own bootstraps because we're not going to give you a ladder, so you better figure out how to lift yourself. It's just wild. This whole part is just wild. And they're like, well, they increased the military spending. And he's like, yeah, well, this is a military institution. It's vital to the defense of Earth. How so? I would argue it would be vital to the defense of Earth in terms of diplomacy. And do you know how you make good diplomacy? You become a good port.
Right.
You do good port shit, okay? That would have been the line I would have taken. But they don't. They're just like, the rest of these negotiations, I'm just going to shorthand this because it goes on. It feels like forever. I know it's not that much of the episode, but it feels like forever. Basically, we want rights. And yeah, well, that would cost money, so no. That's the negotiations in a nutshell. And we keep going on with, you've been given enough money to run these departments efficiently. And this is when Del Vientos is like, okay, but like, who are your experts?
Right. And the balance of efficiency is, hold on, there's a good word for it. Efficiency versus resilience.
Mm-hmm.
Efficiency means you don't have wasted resources.
Yeah.
Either lying dormant or whatever, getting thrown out. Resilience means when unexpected things happen, you have extra materials, systems, processes, whatever, available to fill in the gaps. But it means you also have surplus to take advantage of new opportunities.
Right.
Like, we have enough people to staff all the docks at a surplus so that we can shut down a couple docks and maintain the same throughput and completely overhaul those docks.
Yeah.
Without any downtime.
Right.
And they're saying run efficiently, but that means anything that happens, there's nothing left over.
And I think that's the point.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You're letting the I guess, expected materials, like equipment failures.
Yeah.
You make the system so brittle that a small equipment failure is going to bring down everything.
Right. And they do that. I think they're doing that on purpose because that's how you kill Babylon 5.
Yeah.
But Eduardo pipes up, Eduardo Del Vientos, and he's like, who are the experts? I've been working for 40 years. I can tell you right now, this shit's going to fall apart real fast.
Why have the experts not, contacted me?
Maybe they should
for operational details.
Right. Have they worked here on Babylon 5 doing what we do? I don't think so. Maybe they need to come and do that. If they think they can run that just fine, then they need to come and do it. And this is when Zento turns around and literally pulls out his dick, and on it is tattooed the Rush Act on the side. He's like, Rush Act! I'm invoking the Rush Act. And Sinclair's like, ho, 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 ho. Shouldn't we all, take a minute before we start a war? Maybe we go...
He's like, you can't do that. You need Senate approval.
No, not yet. This is when he's maybe we all go have nappies. Maybe we go take a minute. Maybe we have some snacks. Maybe we're all hangry. I don't know. Let's just take a minute before we do that. And he's like, puts his dick back in his pants. He's like, fine, I'll have a private meeting for more negotiating. Negotiating 2, where I negotiate harder. More negotiating. Later, tomorrow, 7 a.m., and he leaves. And this is when Eduardo and Connolly and Sinclair have a little moment where Eduardo's like, yeah, if this doesn't get resolved, we might have to resort to some more extreme negotiation. And Sinclair's like, you can't bring violence into this. And Eduardo's like, if someone was harming you, was asking you to put your life on the line, would you not defend yourself? which is a very good question because the answer to that is an unequivocal yes. We have watched Sinclair do it several times already. And he's like, well, not with violence. And he's like, yeah, so if someone pushed you, you wouldn't push back. And again, that's an unequivocal yes. And Sinclair would only have to hit them once. That's just facts. He would Sinclair smash. Yeah, he would. And Sinclair's like, okay, cool. So he goes back and stays up all night working on his computer with the least efficient looking interface I've ever seen in my life. It looks like a remote control, and he's like holding it up in front of him, and one hand has to hold it, and the other hand is pushing buttons really hard. The keyboard had already been invented. Like, we could have extrapolated that into the future.
Maybe he's never...
It kind of reminds me of in 2008 when the iPhone first came out, and they gave everybody iPhones. And so
for TV shows.
There's this whole genre or era of TV shows in 2008 when all of a sudden they were like, here, use this phone. And nobody had any fucking idea how to act using a smartphone. So they all do the dumbest shit with it. Yeah. Now that I've mentioned it, you'll see it. There's an episode of Moonlight, the vampire TV show, where she's supposed to be looking something up and she's supposed to be dragging her thumb, like she's supposed to be typing and she's just dragging her thumb back and forth sideways across the screen. It's the dumbest shit I've ever seen. And that's what this feels like. They were like, here's your interface, work with the computer. And he's like, how does it work? And they were like, I don't know, do what comes naturally. And he was just like, okay. And he like held it awkwardly in front of his face and just pushed buttons. But Zento calls it like 6:45. Like, oh, it's not even 6 o'clock yet. It's like 5:47. He's like, you're calling it a strike now. It's a strike now. And he's like, oh, okay. Like, sure.
Is this a parody Twitter account?
What he does
Where
actually.
you're seeing this?
I know. Is that The Onion? Is it satire? Did you check your sources? So he literally goes, damn. And then he stands up and he's sitting looking at his screen doing computer stuff. But he stands up and he whips around and ends up facing his computer screen. So he stands up, does a twirl, unless he has more than one. Because sometimes he will answer this. He will answer.
Yeah, he probably has a sitting height screen and a standing height screen.
Because sometimes he'll answer the phone and the Babcom screen is behind him and he will greet the person on the screen without confirming who the person is. So he must have another screen. It's so you in one shot can get his face and the face of the person on the screen.
Yeah.
So it works great. No notes. But it does make for weird moments like this where it looks like he stands up and just goes, woo, and spins around. Like, hang on, I got to wake myself up. All right, now what? We have a strike? And he's like, oh, I'm telling the Senate on you, buddy. I'm going to tell the Senate. They've got contracts. And Sinclair goes, yeah, but we're talking about people's lives. And he goes, spare me the platitudes. Rush Act. Wow. Poof, he disappears in a puff of smoke. And then Jakar calls immediately. Jakar calls. It is not even 6 o'clock in the morning. There is no logical reason why he should have been able to hang up immediately on Zento. And then Jakar's not up at 6 a.m. Okay?
He's still up.
He's still up because he can't miss it. He can't miss the moment. He's got to get this by dawn. Okay?
And he knows that humans, like the officers, wake up at 6 a.m.
And he's on a time crunch. Like, he's got to get this in a certain amount of time. He's like, I must speak to you on a matter of gravest importance. And so he meets him in the chambers, like the council chambers. And he's like, Malari has a thing and I need it.
And he won't give it to me.
Make him share. Make him share. Because I wouldn't bother you with this, but I really need it. And I don't want to take this up in front of a full assembly.
Do I?
Would he? Could he? What's he going to do? Is he going to call it and be like, Malari has a flower and I need the flower and he won't give me the flower? And they're all going to be like, does he legally own the flower? Does he under any kind of an obligation to give you the flower? It would be like if my kid had a toy and the other kid had a toy and that one wanted that kid's toy, even though that's clearly that child's toy and they own it. And they called a full assembly to be like, I believe I have the right to that toy, even though they own it. All the council members are going to be like, why are we here? Why is it 6:05 in the morning? There's literally no reason why I need to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when they actually show up in the council chamber. And I love this when we come in after the explanation, because it's literally Sinclair going, a fucking flower? You woke me up. You dragged me out here. You threatened a full assembly because he has a little flower that you need.
Jakar, give the statue back.
Well, not yet. That's at the end.
Oh, I thought that was later.
Yeah, no, because we haven't even gone to talk to Londo.
Oh, that's right.
But he's like, it's not just a fucking flower. It's a fucking religious symbol, and I needs it. And so he explains that the mountain, Jaquan Mountain, when the sun rises behind it and the first rays of sunshine touch the people at the foot of the mountain, they all perform this ritual all at the same time, and it's kind of a big deal. And he needs it because he is the highest ranking member of his sect on the station, and he is obligated to provide it. And he ordered it months ago, but one thing happened and then another, and it didn't come until the day before, and then it kind of blew up and somebody died, but I need the fucking flower, okay? And he goes like, I hear you, but it's Londo's flower, and he gets to do with it what he wants. And Jakar goes, it is a sacrilege for him to possess it. It was stolen from our planet, and I will make this an incident. And I feel like Jakar is probably colloquially known as Jakar, the incident ambassador, just because he loves a good incident.
Maybe J is his first name.
J, the incident car.
And Car is his last name.
If I was a wrestler, I think my name would be the incident. Sinclair's like, I mean, I don't like threats, but I'll see what I can do. And it turns out what he can do is ask Malari nicely. So they go and wake Londo up because he's in his robe. Yeah. And this is...
It looks really uncomfortable.
Peter Jurassic is sitting so uncomfortably. It's like they didn't have pajama pants for him.
I wonder if they didn't have enough fabric for him to be able to like actually spread his legs out a little bit.
I don't, because he's sitting and he has his knees put together.
I'm just imagining the edges of the piece of fabric like barely tucked under his thighs.
And it's like a perfect line. Like they draped it and they were like, no, don't move, Peter. And he was like, but what can I... Londo moves a lot. And they were like, no, Londo doesn't move a lot. Londo's tired right now.
Not first thing in the morning.
Londo's tired right now. Londo
he
wants
has a hangover.
Londo sits very still and Londo doesn't move. And he's like, okay, fine. Because he has to sit. So his knees are shaking because he's trying to keep his legs together in this very awkward position. And Sinclair's like, give him the flower, Londo. And Londo's like, no. And Sinclair goes out and he's like, I tried everything and it didn't work.
I saw what I could do and it wasn't enough.
Yeah, he goes, you know I would do anything for you, my good, dear friend Sinclair, but not this. And he's like, this isn't about money or beliefs. This is about him losing faith. Because the Narns, and he goes, the Narns, bleh, and he sticks his tongue out, bleh. They're still pagans. They still worship their sun, says the guy who will later get his panties in a twist about a missing statue, but it's fine. And he goes, would you even consider it? And Londo's like, no. And Jakar is so bummed that he activates the Natoth contingency. He pulls out his thing and he's like, proceed. And then we go back to negotiations, and then they negotiate, and then negotiations continue.
Yeah.
No progress is made. He's like, everyone else understands that our government is not a bottomless pool of money. I mean, it kind of is because it makes the money.
But they're not even a sufficient pool of money.
They're not bottomless. I don't want it to be bottomless. I just want it to be enough. And Sinclair tries another, no, I've been going over the budget, guys. They're like, shut up, Sinclair. Nobody wants to know about your budget. He goes, yeah, take it up with the Senate. I'm pretty sure that's what he actually did already. So
he tried that.
Yeah. Here's an empty threat. He's like, send your people back to work, Connolly. And she goes, stuff it. And that's 90s TV for fuck you. Fuck you. Yeah. And then he's like, he pulls his dick out again. They all hear the zip. Rush Act. Tattooed on the side.
Mm-hmm.
And Sinclair's like, you can't
invoked
do that.
On the other side.
He's He's like, you can't do that without Senate authorization. He's like, yeah, well, I have it for you in an hour, bitch. Have Mr. Garibaldi's people ready to arrest her people while I watch and probably rub one out while whispering, Rush Act. Rush Act. Connolly's like, they're like, Connolly, can't you stop this? No, she actually can't. Guys, stop asking her to stop this. You are asking her to take their lives into her hands. Mm-hmm. This is an emergency life or death situation.
Right.
No,
They're
she
asking
cannot stop
her
this.
to be complicit in like the negligent death.
She would lose
of multiple people.
All authority. There is literally nothing that even says they would listen to her if she said go back to work. Yeah. Okay. It's fine. She's like, yeah, too late. We're already tired and fed up and literally dying. So I don't fucking think we're going back to work. And Sinclair's like, you know what could happen if I send in troops? And she's like, yeah, the same thing that happened at Europa. The ice mining on Europa. Mm-hmm. Probably after Garibaldi left.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And New California and Matawan. And the same thing that happens every time labor has stood up for themselves. Correct, actually, yeah. Sorry, it has to happen here. We have to make a stand somewhere. You stand somewhere. Gotta draw the line somewhere. You can't keep moving the goalposts.
Right.
It makes sense. And this is when Sinclair arrives at CNC, and he is being harassed by the Interstellar Network news lady who's demanding a comment on the Rush Act. And Ivanova's like, hey, we got people holding outside. And he's like, so hold them. And then Jakar and Londo arrive. And the best part of this is Jakar tells Londo to kiss his fucking codpiece. He goes, yeah, well, kiss my fucking codpiece. Doesn't say fucking. He should say fucking. But he says, yeah, kiss my codpiece. Because they're arguing because a statue of Rutarian has gone mysteriously missing from the Centauri Cultural Center. And Jakar's like, I didn't do it. I've been with people for the last several hours. I have literally, you can't blame me for doing this. I clearly didn't do it. And he's like, I want him put in jail. Nuh-uh, I want him put in jail. And Sinclair goes, enough! And he's like, I want everyone out in 10 seconds. Any unauthorized people left on the bridge will be put in the brig until further notice. Ivanova, make it so. And Ivanova's like, yes, 10, 9. And she starts counting down and rushes everybody off. And my favorite part is...
she gets to 3. Everybody's gone.
Well, no, Londo goes, I'm going to file an official sanction. And Jakar goes, I'm going to file 2 official sanctions. And then as soon as they all walk out the door, Garibaldi walks in the door and goes, 2-1. What did I miss?
Strike our lead news item in tonight's program. Is it true that Mr. Zento has declared the doctor slowed down an illegal strike and is seeking the Senate approval for the Rush Act?
No comment.
Commander, we've got 2 transport holding and a Minbari convoy on the radar.
They'll have to wait. You and your putty little gods can kiss my royal party!
Commander, this creature is a thief. I demand you arrest him at once.
Call me that again, Molari, and I'll tear your pale throat out.
This barbarian has stolen the statue of our god, Rutarian, from the Centauri Cultural Center.
I have been in the presence of many witnesses for several hours. I have not stolen anything.
All right, and it was your attack dog, Notav. But on your orders.
I'm fed up with your fabrications, Molari.
Commander, do you have a comment on this?
I demand you arrest him.
I demand you arrest him. That's enough. Get the hell out of here. All of you. Now. Lieutenant Commander Ivanova, in 10 seconds you will escort any unauthorized person still present to the brig and leave him there.
Yes, sir. 10, 9, 8, 7.
I'm filing an official protest.
6.
I'm filing 2 official.
5. You are impeding the warrant's right to know, Commander.
3.
2, 1. So, what I miss?
And this is when the...
Regardless of the fact that he would have seen...
them all storming out.
The reporter, Londo, and Molari. Londo and Jakar all running out.
Yeah. And this is when
Fleeing
from Ivanova. Yeah. And this is when the senator calls and they take it. He's like, oh, just take it here. And he's like, Oren Zento has asked for the Rush Act. Did you know he has it tattooed on his dick? Yes, yeah, we all know that.
It was on the official request. A picture picture
of the Rush Act just aside. They're like, wow, he's really serious about the Rush Act. Yeah, and he's convinced the rest of the Senate that you have an illegal strike and you are ordered to move in with your troops. No negotiations, no delay. And Sinclair's like, this is going to end in violence. And this is when the senator says what we're all thinking, which is, I fear that that is what they are hoping for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's the real purpose of all of this. The deliberate destabilization of B5 to delegitimize its mission and purpose for existing. It's 4D chess. It's bad 4D chess, but it's 4D chess.
Mm-hmm.
Squeeze them till they break and then claim they were never strong enough in the first place.
Yeah.
So he tells Ivanova to go have Garibaldi go in full tactical gear, which is like a quilted overshirt and no helmet, but it's fine. It's fine.
It's space age technology.
It's fine. And the dock workers are actually holding these pickaxe pry bar things that look like the beast from Mandy. They're like they look rough. And then they just send these dudes in with like sticks and a quilted jacket. He's like, also, get me the full text of the order. And that's when you know.
Somebody's about to get Sinclaired.
Somebody's about to get some Sinclair smashed of the intellectual variety.
Legal edition.
The legal edition. And
he does not smash only with his hand.
No.
He smashes with his mind.
And so we go back to the corridor of conflict. And we hear over the speaker system, the Rush Act has been invoked. Sorry. He's like, the best part of this scene is Garibaldi immediately gets punched in the face again. Honestly, it's the only point of watching this whole scene because this wraps up like immediately. He runs in, he gets punched in the head. He gets Connolly out and they're all in the corridor, the other set, the door corridor. We need to come up with a name for that. It's like the corridor of conversation. There's the corridor of conflict, and then there's the corridor of conversation. And so they're in the conversation hallway, and they're like, well, we sealed the area. Just say the word, and we'll gas them, and then we'll all arrest them while they're sleeping. It'd be real easy. Why didn't we do that in the first place? I don't know. It's fine. They were giving them the chance to not be violent. And then more frantic yelling ensues. And then Bento Box arrives. This is the point in my notes where I forgot Orin Zento's name and just started calling him Bento Box. I feel like it works better, so I'm going to go with it. And he's like, why haven't they been cleared out yet? What was he doing? Was he having snackies?
It's been like 60 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. Did we interrupt your beverage break? I don't know. It's literally your fucking job. They sent you out here to handle this, and you were. And he's like, why am I here? Like, they ask him to go into the area with them. And he's like, but why? Because they clear out the troops. And then Garibaldi, Bento Box, and Connolly and Sinclair all head into the corridor of conflict. Because he's like, I'm going to clear it right now. Come with me. And this is when Garibaldi's like, I hope you know what you're doing, Jeff. Because he knows Sinclair's up to shit. He knows it full well. He knows the signs. But they get everyone to quiet down. And Sinclair's like, okay, guys, I am authorized to use any means necessary to end this strike. Correct?
Right.
Correct?
Wink, wink.
And Orin Zento is like, yeah, hell yeah, yeah. Any means necessary. Hell yeah. He gets to do what he wants. That's what any means necessary is, like upper thigh. He just pulls the corner of his pants down. He's like, yeah, right, yep. And he's like, okay, Then I choose the means of doing the decent thing and moving 1.3 million credits from the military budget to the dock budget for more workers and upgrades to equipment. So Rush Act this, you son of a bitch. That's basically what he says. And he's like, I'm declaring...
Rush on this, Zento.
He's like, I'm also declaring amnesty for any worker who has committed no other crime during this period. And Zento is like, you can't do that. And he's like, I kind of just did. He's like, you're right. I couldn't until you invoke the Rush Act. And then I could. Never hand anyone a gun until you know where they will point it. Your mistake.
You can't do this. You're right, I couldn't until you convinced the Senate to invoke the Rush Act. You should never hand someone a gun unless you're sure where they'll point it. Your mistake.
What in his behavior at any point made them believe that he would side with arresting and murdering these people?
Military guy. He go boom boom.
Yeah. He He do what he told, I think is what they were going with. He'll do what he's told.
Every other time he's been in a conflict, he punches.
Why this time diplomacy? Oh, God.
He's always been punching strategically. But they couldn't separate the fact that he punched with the fact that he decided where to punch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good, yeah. He never punched until he had to, and they didn't see that. And he's basically like, if it's cool with Garibaldi, we won't even press charges for him getting punched in the face. And he's like, well, I get punched in the face all the time. It's totally fine. I got punched in the face last episode for no reason at all. So I like getting punched in the face for a reason, I guess. Because Garibaldi shakes hands with Del Vientos. He's like, it's cool, no problem. And he's like, that's my offer, but it's contingent on you guys all going back to work immediately because we've got cargo to haul. And they're like, woohoo, yay, back to work. And then they head back to work. Mm-hmm. Because Sinclair is a better negotiator than the Senate's best negotiator, apparently.
Well, he wasn't actually a negotiator.
No, he was the strong man.
Yeah.
He was a bad strong man, but he was a strong man. So Bento is like, you know damn well that you twisted the intent of that order and you won't get away with it. And Sinclair's like, ooh, sorry, unless I see that written somewhere, my hands are tied. Weirdest thing. He doesn't care. He's already been kicked out here. He's already at the end of his career. He doesn't give a shit. And he's like, I think Miss Connolly said it best, actually. Fuck off. And she goes, thank you. And he's like, you know what? Actually, don't thank me yet because we really just kicked a hornet's nest. And I have to like Connolly, but I have to wonder about her father because she goes, like my dad used to say, there's no happy endings, just more battles. Oh, Pop, he had the best sayings. And Sinclair's like, I mean, correct, but also, what the fuck? and
those were the kind of one-liners that he was giving her when she was like 7 years old.
I know. It reminds me of in The Crow when he's like, my dad gave me this when I was 5 years old, and it's a snow globe of a graveyard. And he goes, childhood's over the moment you know you're going to die. But Garibaldi walks up to Sinclair and he's like, hey, so no offense, but you look like week old bread. I think you need to go get some sleep. And he's like, funny, that's exactly what I was planning to do now. And then he immediately gets a beep beep on his communicator and he's like, oh my God, fucking what? And Ivana goes, you better get up here. Jakar and Londo are about half an inch away from killing each other. And I want him to be like, can I walk slow? How quickly do I need to get up there? He's like, gentlemen, I haven't slept in 2 days, so we're going to figure this shit out, and we're going to figure it out right now. And Londo goes, oh, I noticed. Have you considered meditation?
Not the person to mess with right now,
Londo's
Londo.
just rub. And Jakar, he's like, Jakar, you're going to return the statue. And he's like, what? I don't have the statue. And he's like, shh. Londo, you are going to give him the flower. And Londo's like, And he goes, well, okay, Londo, it's a controlled substance, so it's actually illegal to own, so you can file a protest if you wish.
I'm seizing it.
But you have to turn it over to me in the meantime, and you will be fully compensated. And then Londo's like, you know what? It's fine.
It's already too late for him to use it anyway.
Yep, I've already gotten my enjoyment out of anyways. And then he just gloats out of the room.
I feel like Londo gloats everywhere.
He does. It's his way of walking. He just
Londo gloat.
He gloated over to the casino. He gloated over to the bar. And Sinclair walks over to Jakar and he's like, okay, so when the statue turns up, I'll turn the flower over to you and you will pay him what he was asking for it. And he's like, why would I, assuming I know where the statue is, do that when it's already too late? And he's like, okay, let me explain how light years work. In about 12 hours, the light that touched the mountain about 10 years ago will be here. Do you think that would work for Jaquan? And he's like, I think that would work. Great. And you are more spiritual than I gave you credit for.
The greatest rules lawyer of all time.
And he goes, there's a couple of Jesuit teachers who I think would disagree with you, but okay. I don't know what Jesuits are. That's what became apparent to me the moment he said that. I was like, oh, what is a Jesuit? We're going to have to look that up. And we'll do that after I finish this. He's like, Well, the one thing I did really like is that they took into account the fact that light years for a planet where the year is a different length.
I like that they added that in.
Yeah, he's like, it's 12.2 Earth light years, which would be 10-ish light years, 10-ish of your light years, because it's the amount of distance that light can travel in a year. So if the year is subjective, then you have to change the number of years. Oh, Jesuits are a specific religious order within the Roman
it's like
Catholic
having
Church.
Like going to Catholic school, but a more specific version.
They're known for their commitment to education, service, and a strong focus on evangelization and mission work. They take 3 traditional vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. Well, we know he does not do one of those things. Oh, they do have an emphasis on education, social justice, and global service.
Mm-hmm.
I knew they founded a lot of schools, and they do apparently have a focus on education. They're like an order inside the Catholic Church.
Yeah. My understanding was it was like your stern teacher in Catholic school.
Yeah.
And
never,
that's how people use. That's how I've seen people use the
there
term
are Catholics
Jesuits.
and Jesuits screaming at us right now. I am so sorry.
Hey, engagement on the YouTube channel.
You know the best way to get engagement on the internet? Be
Say
wrong.
something wrong.
Be wrong. So Sinclair tries to go to bed. This is all solved. He's figured it all out. He goes, computer, hold transmissions. I'm going to bed. And the computer goes, okay, I'll hold this one transmission.
No, you already have one pending.
And he's like, okay, put it through. And it's the senator. And this is where he's not looking at the screen, but he knows it's the senator. And the senator goes, remind me never to play poker with you. You are one hell of a gambler. And Sinclair's like, I mean, from his perspective, it wasn't that big of a gamble. Everybody already hates him. His career's already dead. He's already all the way out here.
Right. The worst case scenario for Sinclair in that moment was them actually being able to shut down his budget reallocation.
Yeah.
And then he has to arrest everybody anyway.
But the most critical thing for him is that he not be the bad guy to the dock workers.
Right.
Because he needs them to recognize his authority to continue operating on Babylon 5 smoothly.
Yeah.
And so there's no world where he could have sided with Orinzento and kept the level of respect that he currently commands.
Yeah.
He solidified his position, even if the Senate came back and said, "Nuh-uh, that's not going to work." He was still the one who tried the Hail Mary.
Right.
So, honestly, it wasn't that big of a gamble. You okay? You okay, Pippin? Okay. He goes, you get your victory. No one agrees with you, but public opinion is on your side. Because he says, I'm so glad they saw my side. And he's like, oh, no, they don't fucking see your side. No, that's not what happened here. Public opinion is on your side. But everybody hates you now. So, sorry. Like, you paid your workers, you piece of trash. Who does that? Jesus Christ. What kind of a precedent is this? He's like, well, they all hated me before. This isn't news. After he
You're just
hangs up.
teaching them that protesting will get them more money.
Jesus, don't do that.
We can't teach them that lesson.
God damn.
We have to wait a couple more budget cycles after they've conceded and then say, okay, you can have some more money.
Maybe, if we feel like it. If they keep working, then no. I don't know. It's a weird thing. Anyway, he's like, it's fine. It's not news. So he hangs up and he goes to bed. And then we end with Jakar getting his ceremony with the cool pyrotechnics of the Jaquan Eth. And that's it. That's the end of the episode. And it brought up a question that I had seen raised on in an article the other day where they were talking about Tolkien. And Tolkien did not like Dune at all. At all. And so they were discussing the differences between like Tolkien morality and Herbert morality, as Tolkien seeing that the good is the good regardless of context.
Okay.
That the highest moral value is to do the thing that is good, even if failure is assured.
Yes.
You still must seek to do the good thing. I will take the ring to Mordor, even if I don't know the way.
Right.
Whereas Herbert morality was all subjective. Good is good based on the expediency of the moment. Is it necessarily the highest moral good to fulfill this prophecy and take over this planet knowing it could get away from me and I could end up causing a jihad that destroys like billions and billions of people? Yeah, it's the best thing in this moment, so I'm going to do it. Good is subjective and based on...
Well, that specific example, I would say, for the Dune example, is it the highest moral good for me to attempt to do this thing, even though it may not work, is the same as Lord of the Rings version. Is it the highest moral good for me to attempt to take the ring to Mordor, even though I might fail to get it there?
Right.
Yes.
But it's not about doing it in the face of failure. It's was it good to fulfill that prophecy?
Oh, okay.
So you did it, you fulfilled the prophecy because the means justified the ends.
There's actually a lot of in-depth exploration of do the means justify the ends in the Dune books.
I think Tolkien's reacting to like Dune 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we do end up circling back around to, okay, but Paul was the bad guy.
And that, yeah, the Dune 1 and Dune Messiah are the like starting point for Frank Herbert's like real full philosophical exploration.
Right. But isolating simply Dune, where Paul is shown as the hero, which ultimately ends up becoming a really cool way to portray him, because as more and more of what he does, as the ripples of what he does spread out into the universe, we find out, yeah, he ain't the good guy.
Yeah, by the end of Children of Dune, we find out, oh, actually, Paul was kind of a bad guy.
Yeah. And I think we do a good job of portraying that in the movies, of showing it as like a sinister thing that he's doing. I hate how they treated Chani, but that's an entirely other discussion. But anyway, the idea where I'm going here is the idea of good being good regardless of context versus I will do the thing I need to do to get the good outcome.
Right.
And I think that this episode was a place where that is a good discussion, because Sinclair was trying to do the good thing by going through official channels.
Right.
Instead of the good is the good thing. Like the good thing is to keep these workers safe, not send them back to a job that is inherently unsafe and would probably cause them lasting health damage because they're not resting properly.
Right. There are some things like preventing suffering that are indisputably like always the moral good.
Right. So the moral good here would have been for Sinclair to side with them immediately.
He was doing that.
Yeah.
While also trying to do the ethical, moral good thing of following his oaths.
Yeah.
Of service.
So he tried to split the hairs, and what he ended up doing was his own thing. And choosing to, I think ultimately Sinclair will choose to do the good thing. I don't think he's a means-based morality person. I think he's I will do the good thing because it is right.
Right.
Even if it is hard.
Right. The ends don't justify the means.
Right. And I think that maybe when early in the episode, when he is appearing to side with the Senate, that's when I start to feel unsure about his character in this episode.
But then we find out.
But as time goes on and we get more into like, no, he had come up with a good solution. He just needed somebody to listen to him. And he just wasn't in a position to force anyone to listen to him.
Right.
So that's something to think about moving forward in the series. Because eventually we're going to get characters that we can compare and contrast him with. And I think sometimes the criticism of Babylon 5 is that you have these really moral characters. That's not gritty. I mean, it's not gritty in like a anti-hero.
Right.
Ish. I know, we're going to get there. I don't know. I don't want to make any blanket statements right now because we have a lot of characters yet to meet. And we have a lot of character development that we're going to get to. But I think this was a good episode. It raised a lot of questions. It showed you a lot of the backbone of what's happening on Babylon 5 and the restrictions and the pressure Sinclair is under from a sort of crumbling world government. Not crumbling in that it's falling apart, but in that the mission is changing so rapidly. Babylon 5 is being left behind. And I think that's a good place to move forward to the next episode and a good one to come back to.
Yeah.
And we should be back to a regular weekly schedule now. Now that we have, and I don't know if we talked about this at the very beginning, but the pod lab is in the bathroom. Because it's the only room we could soundproof. We have 2 bathrooms. We didn't need both. However,
it's the only room that doesn't have a wall that faces the road.
Yeah. However, there is still a toilet in here. So there is a non-zero chance
we could be podcasting.
That we could be podcasting
from the toilet.
Yeah. It's a slim chance because that would be weird, but it is a non-zero chance. So I'm going to leave you with that visual. Yeah, I think I'm going to get back on Instagram for updates because I have protested by leaving Meta, I feel like, long enough. And there's just not a good alternative. I did save an article that I really want to read called Rewilding the Internet about decentralizing fan communities and interacting with people, like moving away from the monolith social media platforms.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that's already happening.
Yeah. And I love it for us because as someone mentioned, and I haven't responded to comments in a while, but like a lot of us cut our teeth on the internet in these very fan-made communities.
Yeah.
Web rings, forums. You know, somebody had a computer powerful enough to host a forum or an email server or whatever. And that's where we all met and chatted and interacted. And there was no algorithm showing you, pushing up the most combative and like posts that were getting the most interaction. It was just all very organic. And,
right. Yeah. There wasn't any algorithm engagement baiting.
Right. And it was a time like the internet used to be fun. We used to go on the internet to have fun. That sounds really wild, but you would go on and like, I'd check my forums or I'd check my message boards or, whatever. And it was a really great moment in time, but there's not a way for me to do that just yet with the platform the size that we have. So until I have that, maybe I don't know. There's one called Ko-Fi that I'm going to look into starting because Patreon keeps changing stuff and they're doing a lot of, I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with the direction Patreon is taking. So I think I'm going to look into Ko-Fi. And once I get that set up, I'll let you guys know. But until then, I'll start putting announcements back on Instagram. And we are at Strange and Beautiful Network on Instagram.
And so strangeandbeautiful.network on the web.
And that's probably where I'll be putting the next books we're going to be reading for Strange and Beautiful Book Club too.
Okay.
And I have a proposal for Strange and Beautiful Network. Hear me out. We have started and abandoned 2 6-book series. I propose that we finish Dune and we finish The Dark Tower.
Yeah.
So we read the next 3 books in the Dune series and we read the next 3 books in the Dark Tower series. And that's what our next 6 months for the Strange and Beautiful Book Club would be.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, because I want to finish them and I need a reason to finish them. So let's do it. All right, so now that Pippin is snoring, I think it's time to end it. So we live for the one.
We die for the one.
Until next time, friends.
Bye.
The gift of time. The gift of life. The gift of wisdom. The gift of light. For these things we are thankful. For these things we pray.
For these things we are thankful. For these things we pray.
Wonderful.